So I have zero experience flying a drone, but let me try.
Yeah.
I'm good with an Xbox controller. It'll take a few years, but it's good to start now.
Nothing gives you the feeling of, shit, it worked.
Engineers are generally the people who have most fun in life.
Consumer robotics are going to be around in the next maybe 6 months, a year, 2 years. You want your robot to now know karate? Great, $5 on the App Store. If you can put really smart people in a room with each other and just do experiments, some of those experiments end up working.
So, I'll tell you what me, Varun and Manmeet, we were chit-chatting when we were sitting in your lab. I keep kind of like a broken record, I keep talking about how powerful the new advances in AI are and how powerful robotics is becoming. I think there has been decades, like even if I look back at when we were in college, of course, robotics was a thing even then, AI was a thing even then. But practically speaking, those were mostly just fields of research that people were researching. There were very few real world practical applications where people were really using them. To be honest, during my entire academic life and even many years after that, I barely saw a robot being used in real world. Right? There were robots in the labs, maybe in the very large scale factories, but none of them were being used for something real. Same with the AI. That there was a lot of neural networks, CNN, RNN, deep learning, all those concepts existed, but they were getting built, right? I think today is such a fantastic time to be alive, where now it is all getting real. I was just telling Varun that I strongly feel, it is similar to probably 1860, 1870, when electricity was invented for the first time. Now, of course, we cannot talk to those folks who were alive back then. When electricity was invented, of course, most people realize it's pretty powerful stuff. That now the earlier steam was being used to power things, but now steam was being used to push electrons into a circuitry which can transfer the power, right, to thousands of miles. People got excited. It's amazing, yeah, it can light the bulb. And now even in the night we can have as much light as there in the morning. It's fantastic. But they couldn't even imagine what all electricity would do in next 100 years. That cars like Tesla will get built which are running on electricity, right? Or these huge factories will get built which are entirely running on electricity. I think AI is something similar. AI is almost as powerful as electricity. And those who can imagine what this new kind of electricity can do to the world and build that, they will have a massive leverage. Varun, interestingly, I think he has been very passionate about both robotics and electricity. He has been, another thing he just said in the lab, which I resonate a lot with. And this might be, some people might say you are just being too cocky here, but we both feel, and I'm sure most of you will agree, that engineers are generally the people who have most fun in life. Because it's not about you will make money or not, but the joy of being able to build something, just create something out of your imagination, and being stuck with something for 6 hours, 8 hours, 10 hours, and then being able to build that. Maybe Varun, you want to talk about that first?
Yeah, I mean, just for context, I'm a robotics noob. I've only been learning in the last few weeks, but there's a moment that every engineer has had, right? And the more of these moments that you've had, the more fun your life is, where you spend like 6 hours, 10 hours trying to figure out something. Could be anything. Like, I'll give you an example. Yesterday, we were doing some 3D tracking, okay? And the way you do it is you have a green screen, you have a moving camera, and then you have markers on the screen, okay? Like slightly different green colored. Now, you're supposed to look at the movement of the markers. As the markers go in, go out, slant, either to the left or right, skewing basically. Through that, if you look at the positions of those, like let's say 10 markers at the same time, you're able to reverse triangulate the position of the camera. So what is the advantage of this? You are able to put yourself in a 3D world, and as the camera moves, we're able to move the 3D world along with you. So it looks like your feet are firmly planted to the ground. So you're able to make a Marvel movie, right? So we were just trying this. And I remember the first time I did it in Blender. So yesterday I was working on something, and the tracking error was some 20 pixels. I was jittering all over. But then we moved to another tool called Synthesize, and then we were working on it. And then finally, by the end of the night, I think some 8 p.m. or something, I got a tracking error of 0.6 pixels. The feeling I got, no high, no drug, nothing gives you the feeling of shit, it worked, right? So I had that feeling of shit, it worked. And the thing is, so many times in life, Abhimanyu, I've had it where I've been working on a problem, cracking my head, it's not working, and then it works. And I think one thing it does over time is it stops you from giving up.
Yeah.
Right? Because once you've had many of these wins where it's worked, it's worked, oh, I got this working.
And win after failing for a very long time.
Yeah. Where then anything is possible. Through hook or jugad, you can make anything possible as long as it's on a computer or on a device, right? Humans are a different beast, but we'll come to that later. You can't just brute force. You can't just tell a human being in 20 different ways, do this with me if they don't want to do it, right? But you can do it with a computer. So I thought, I got that feeling again last night, and it was such a good feeling that I feel now with AI here, helping you, assisting you, it's so weird, but I think engineering is a motivation problem.
Yeah.
Being a good engineer is a motivation problem, right? Most people give up at some point or the other. And to be very honest, I feel like engineering today, the meaning of the word engineering has been skewed to like, आप React engineering कर रहे हो या you're very proficient with one specific framework. Or I saw some people arguing about Git yesterday on Twitter, right? So it started becoming about the micros where the macro is you're either able to build something or break it down. And like if today you ask me, like 3-4 years ago we used to do stuff in Unreal. If today you ask me what is that one feature in Unreal, I've forgotten. But I can figure it out if given time, right? Because I have familiarity. So I think it's the figure it out mentality that I love the most. And AI is just making when you code with ChatGPT and you ask ChatGPT, can you answer this? Yeah. And it gives you an answer and you're able to figure it out with ChatGPT. It's a miraculous feeling.
Right. No, so coming to, the areas that you call yourself noob, but of course that's the thing with anyone, it's most important to know what you don't know.
Yeah.
And so which always keeps telling you, I know nothing, no matter how much I know. But how do you see, or if you can talk about some of the experiments that you have been doing with both robotics and Gen AI, or in general, large language models, and where do you see world going? What kind of things that you think are already almost there and they will get perfected in few years?
Our area of expertise is actually not robotics, it's content. So I'll tell you what we were doing, okay? I've been creating content for like 6-7 years. Just on my channel, I've been doing some fun stuff. Never really saw it as a business, money. We didn't see any of that with content. Right? It was just like, it's like tweeting. I saw making a video like tweeting. It's just, you have a thought, you go say it in front of a camera. And we were doing some stuff on the content, and then sometime last year, I said, I want to start an AI company because Gen AI is here. I had just got done with my previous company, so we were experimenting. To be honest, one thing you learn after building companies for many years and having some good years and then having some bad years is you don't want to get caught in a local maxima. Mark Zuckerberg says this, right? You don't want to build something and then just get stuck with some small business, right? So I said, I'm not going to do that again. I'm just going to experiment. I don't care if people think I'm stupid. I don't care if things don't work, if things fail, right? So we built a tool, we put ChatGPT on WhatsApp first. Like API aa gaya, GPT API aa gaya, we're going to put it same day. Then a few months later, we said we should make a tool for YouTube thumbnails. Stable diffusion getting good enough. You can do identity personalization on stable diffusion. Let's try that. So we tried a bunch of experiments. While they got some scale, they didn't make that much money, right? And we kept experimenting. We kept trying all the latest repositories. Because I had found this one hack where usually experimentation has no reward, right? Like you experiment, bana diya, only you know about it, ki yes, this worked. I found a reward by making content. I was like, if I was able to experiment with this and it works, and even if it doesn't work, I can make a video on it. Let's say I'm able to build this tool, this simple tool, I can make a video on it, right? So it became this thing where I would experiment, then make a video on it, experiment. Not all videos are about the experiments, but at least it gave me something out of the time and energy I'd spent on it. But what I didn't realize, it was making me really good at predicting where the open source models are going to go, right? And where in general things are going to go. I still get stunned every day because no one can predict the future, but I started to recognize that actually AI disrupts content only. Like hallucination is a feature. It's not. It's a bug in if you need accuracy, but hallucination is a feature. So we started using it. We said script ke liye, it can add unlimited variance to your script. So how does a video work? You write a script, then you go shoot, present it in front of a camera, then you add some background music, then you do some editing. 4-5 parts. So first part we said script, let's see if AI can generate this. I just need to now give my thought. Yes, this is what we're doing. We did that. Script started coming out decent, especially for short form, right? Because it's just a 1-minute thing. Then next was, okay, we've got the script working. Now that the script is working, we need to present. And I tried this repository early on called Wave to Lip.
Wave to?
Wave to Lip. Okay, that's Wave is the file format for audio. And it converts Wave to Lip. It's actually made by a bunch of Indian researchers from IIIT.
IIIT Hyderabad?
Yeah, oh, wow. I think so, right? So we tried it and we said it was good, but you can see the markers around the lip, so it wasn't like perfect. But then I realized, yeah, actually, maybe over time I can replace myself from videos. Sounded very silly when I said that. But then as time went by, a model came out, HeyJoin came out, and then we were able to use it, we were able to fine-tune it reasonably well, and our outputs were damn good. I'm like, wait, I don't need to be in the videos. Now, I was still voice-overing the videos at this point, and I said, let's do our own voice model. And we had done this one video on RVC, where we had used retrieval voice cloning to kind of convert one person's voice into somebody else's voice. We converted one of my team members' voice to my voice. I said, this is great, we should use this. And we started using it for a while, and I realized finally I'm completely out of the equation. It's just my thought. On a WhatsApp group every morning, I'm like, guys, here's what happened, here's what I think about it. I just send a voice note. And then the video was produced, the end video was produced almost very similar to what I would do, right? And then eventually 11 Labs got better, the audio models. And now you could just do text to audio, straight. And it was believable. So we just clubbed it all together and we realized, wait, by chaining the models, we have automated an influencer. We have automated a creator. And it's so weird because now it's purely thought. I just think of a good idea and that becomes a video. Can you imagine historically we'd call this magic. You think of an idea and you have a video ready. Sure, I have a team helping me with the final edit and all that. But the minute I saw that, I was like, this is great.
How many of your, what percent of your, let's say, last 20 videos that would be
100%.
You are not there?
No.
It's not you?
The last 3 months, I've probably done 1 or 2 videos, real videos. And those have been outside.
Okay. So, not a single shot of you in the video?
I mean, it's an old shot of me which has been, the lips have been restitched with AI to the point where nobody can distinguish it.
Wow.
Right? So, yeah, we are a completely virtual influencer. You can check it out on Instagram right now. You can check out Varun Mayya on Instagram right now. It's completely virtual.
Check out the last video.
Yeah, you can see.
It's not him.
All of your short form, all of your reels are completely audio.
Yeah, and shorts, yeah. Long form I still do myself.
So it's basically your clone in a computer which is creating that.
Yeah, I mean, my team still organizes it, and I still give my thoughts, otherwise it would stop being my content.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm no longer paid for the menial work I do of going in front of a camera and saying something and coming out. I've replaced myself in a way. And I feel like I sometimes think, right, if we'd taken the first tool that we had built and gone all in on it, I would have missed out on this opportunity.
Yeah.
So have you guys checked it out? Have you guys
checked out the last?
No. I mean, it is me in the sense I've shot the base video once, and then there's one on the Meta Ray-Ban which is real. The rest are not me. The Meta Ray-Ban is a clip out of the full video that I did, but the rest are not me.
In a way, it's a very philosophical question. Why is it not you, even if you never sat in front of the camera?
You can also talk about the process that you were just telling us.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you what we learned about AI. Okay, we learned that domain expertise matters more than anything. So, what I mean by that is, we understand content really well. So, what video would do well, over time when you create content, you get good at figuring out what video does well.
Right.
But now, you still have to go shoot the video, you still have to do the work. So we started using technology as a way to do less work, right? To the point where eventually that amount of work tends to zero. And then we realized, shit, we're getting paid purely for domain expertise and knowledge of the domain. That's it. Okay? This only works for one type of video, which is me staring in front of a screen saying this happened today, blah, blah, blah. I mean, to give you math, it's about 40 million views over 3 months, just my channel, across Instagram, YouTube, right? That's 40 million English views over 3 months, which is a significant number to be completely automated. It was okay. But then I realized now there's an entire branch of AI that many of you haven't heard of. Like, I'm actually least interested in LLMs. Like, I think Gemini, Claude, OpenAI, we know where it will go, right? It will become a super intelligence that you can talk to and it will give you responses, it can execute code on your behalf. I get all of that. But I don't use LLMs as much, I mean, commercially, as, let's say, me replacing the avatar of me. Now, this question you asked of, is it me? I don't know. Because it's trained on my body mannerisms, which I have developed over 31 years of my life. It's developed on my voice, which I've developed over 30 years of my life. And by the way, we have a script. This is the thing about being good at fine-tuning models. The audio model that's trained, we basically asked ChatGPT, this is stuff that nobody will tell you, by the way. This is not there anywhere on the internet, I assume, or at least I haven't seen it. We went through all the commonly used words that I've said in the last N number of months on Instagram, which we commonly use on this thing. And we made a big ChatGPT script of all of that, and that was used as the training data for me to kind of, train the voice model. So I have full coverage of words, but there are words that I don't have coverage of that don't sound like me. Like, I'll give you an example. Devotee. Okay, I want one of you, actually I'll play it for you. I hope my internet works here, but I'll play it for you, okay? You can hear it. Like, if you are very, very, very tuned in, you can hear it, okay? I want you to watch this.
This is a video of the Kashi Vishwanath temple, which now has a virtual reality darshans for devotees. As you can see, devotees are now strapping on the Meta Quest VR headset. Kashi Vishwanath temple, which now has a virtual reality darshans for devotees. As you can see,
Hear that? That's the wrong pronunciation of devotee, but it wasn't in my training coverage data. So we realized it's a lot about the data set. And every word that the AI can't pronounce, my team is there, they're smart enough to be like, let's take 2 different words and let's stitch them together. So there's still some trickery that goes on to make it flawless, but it's not far where, we don't need to do that trickery either. And by the way, I fully revealed this to people. And yet some guy will complain to me on Twitter saying, this video is, it's like, it's not me. Right? So, I love it. Like, you should see the comments. Right? Over time, like in the beginning, my audience used to say, this is AI generated, this is AI generated. After a while, the audience didn't care. They're like, as long as I'm getting good content and I know Varun sent a voice note on WhatsApp giving his thoughts, this is great. And actually, I'm being rewarded more for curation of good content in tech versus too much original thought. Right? So if it's curation plus a little bit of original thought, people love that. That's the final formula, right? So we realized domain expertise of content is very important, and then we built a company around it. We said, let's do content for other people, for other companies, and let's use AI to reduce the cost of creating that content, but let's still use our domain expertise of understanding the space to kind of club it together. So we started doing everything around content, and then we saw this entirely new set of repositories and models where there's a totally different game going on from the game being played here. How many of you joined here because you want a job eventually? How many of you joined here because you want a job eventually? Okay, a few of you. That's not a bad thing.
It's okay. It's totally
There's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah.
That's one game to play. Now, there's another game being played by some Chinese researchers and US researchers on GitHub purely for a different kind of glory and valor, which is the state of the art. SOTA. Ours is the state of the art open source model for XYZ task. So first thing that really caught my eyes was something called Gaussian splatting. Okay? Where basically you take a video of this room and then you're able to move this room into 3D. Okay? 5 years ago, and someone here pointed it out, I made a cringe video of me fighting myself in 3D, where I'd made a digital avatar before MetaHuman, before Unreal MetaHuman. We made a digital avatar and we made me fight myself. I was trying to get the lighting match, whatever. Didn't come out so well, but I've been playing around for a long time with Unreal Engine. So I said, well, if you can take a real world and put it in Unreal Engine, and you can mimic where all the lights are, then that would be crazy, right? Then you can do CGI, some form of CGI. At some point, you should also be able to Gaussian splat a human being in. And then lots of things started moving very fast. So we have tools now like move.ai where I can dance and it will map this into a bone structure that's used by a lot of common let's say, bone structures in 3D. For example, there's a very common bone structure called the epic skeleton, which is used in Unreal Engine. There's another common bone structure called Mixamo bone structure, right? So it sort of automatically converts to that. So I can dance here with a cheap camera, convert all that pose data and animation data into 3D, and then the Gaussian that I made of me, I can drive it through somebody else dancing. It's very similar to what we had done with our audio, right? So suddenly you can take me and you can put me on the moon, and I don't need to be there. My voice.
Can you talk a little bit about what is Gaussian splatting?
Yeah, so Gaussian splatting, what it does is it takes, so there's multiple ways to do it, but it takes, let's say, pictures of this from multiple different angles, and it stitches together like sort of a scene. And it's not a 360 scene. You know, with Google Sphere, you could do 360, right? I can take a picture here, I can take a picture here, and then it creates a curveball. This is something with depth. I can walk through it in VR if I wanted to, right? So that's Gaussian splatting. And if I can take this world, put this exact thing with this exact lighting, with this exact feeling from of what it looks like from a camera into the 3D world, into Blender or Unreal Engine, and then I can put myself there, which is not really me. And then I can move around, then I'm no longer just doing talking head videos. Then I'm in a 3D world. I can play that as a game. I could make movies out of it. I can be the next Spider-Man, whatever, right? Like we started seeing a lot of edge use cases there. And we can do a lot of VFX. So yeah, and then one of the learnings also we had was that actually technology is evolving to a point where building the base models might not be as commercially viable as people think it is. We usually fine-tune models. We don't have the skill yet to train base models, but we are building a foundational model soon on something very niche. It's not something as big as an LLM. We'll probably talk about it later. But we realized stringing these models together to solve a problem was what the market wanted. Because if you can solve content for a company, the main challenge with any company doing content is the presenter will run away at some point.
Yeah.
Right? If he becomes too famous, he'll move on. But we said, well, if we can replace him with an AI avatar, and the AI avatar is not real, then you own the avatar. The company owns the avatar. So it changes the dynamics of how a company would do a channel. Because actually, I don't believe in business channels, like any company ka channel. Because the minute it's a company channel, it feels like a company channel. But when you have a presenter and the presenter becomes popular, it's a personal brand. Every YouTube channel, in my opinion, is a personal brand, even if it's got a company name on it, right? So if Scaler has this thing and then one person keeps popping up on the Scaler videos all the time, I'll build affinity to him. But now, finally, every company can make their own mascot, real person who's there in the videos, and then now you can make him move around and do awesome stuff. Like, it changes the game. And we tried some of these experiments with clients. It worked out so well, where the AI versus non-AI views there's no delta between them.
So have you built any personas which are not you?
Yeah, of course. We have a persona which we now run for another unicorn, which is not me. We have one for another bootstrapped unicorn, which is not me. So yeah, we have lots of personas that aren't me. The reason we started with me is because I'm just always experimenting. It's easiest for me to just go shoot data of myself and then put it in instead of asking somebody, Aja bet.
So these personas that you have created for these companies, are they entirely virtual? That such a person does not exist in the world, or are they built on someone's persona?
So right now they're built on someone's persona, and the way we work with them is we give them some royalties. And these are people we know, these are people we trust, these are people who will never, like, the person doesn't know about the topic, so no competitor can steal that person. So if the person is talking about, let's say, the Arctic Ocean, they don't know what the Arctic Ocean is in real life. So you can't really, a competitor can't poach them or whatever, right? Like the guy can't go start his own channel.
So it's just the face and voice.
Yeah, just the face and voice. But purely synthetic avatars, I think are already possible. But, completely this person does not exist type avatars will be possible in I'm sure there's an open source repository.
So do you see a world where, like, I imagine a world that, let's say the way everyone here know Varun, right? Now let's say imagine a world where Varun does not even exist in the real world. And it's just owned by a company.
I don't know how it would work. I'll tell you why. Because eventually people want to see the person in real life. I think real life presence matters. And there are lots of creators today, real creators who have like millions of followers who nobody knows, nobody cares about because they don't know what they do in the real world. I think real world persona adds to whether to take you seriously or not online. And if you've done stuff in the real world, then people take you more seriously online. So wo hai. But that being said, what I'm really excited about is all the smartest people now in India who don't have the time to create content, people like you. One click, you're now online.
Yeah.
Right? And there's an avatar of you, which eventually, like, it's going to be live, it's going to be on Zoom. Instead of like, why do I need to attend a Zoom meeting? Right? Yeah. So all that stuff is, I think, not very far away. But I'm really excited about VFX CGI. But one thing we keep reminding ourselves, right? And this is something that I have to remind myself of and the engineers in our team of every day is ultimately, if you ask, are we an AI company or are we a content company? I think we're a content company, right? And we use AI to make content cheaper, better, faster, whatever. I think the coolest part about our jobs and what I have to keep reminding the team is ultimately we are tellers of stories. If we forget that and just do too much bells and whistles, we become like the latest series of Marvel movies, which is great effects, but who's watching? What's the story? So ultimately, like sometimes I have to tone it down. Yeah. Like I really wanted to make this video of how the world is going to look like in 5 years. We're like, we have VFX, we have CGI now. And we can do it in real time to some extent, right? With pre-visualization and Unreal. And I could show you what the world is like. For example, 5 years later, maybe you wake up and you don't brush your teeth because there is that new probiotic strain that has completely removed all pathogenic cavity-producing bacteria from your mouth, and you don't have to brush anymore. So no brush in your house. Then your mirrors are smart. They're looking at you, they're talking. So we thought, instead of just me just sitting and explaining ki kaisa hota hai, we showed with VFX. But then we realized at the end of the day, there's no moral to the story. We're just using cool VFX for the sake of using cool VFX. So sometimes, so my team told me, Varun, you're making the same mistake. We need to still tell stories. So the minute we forget that our job is to tell stories, I think we screw up in a way. But as long as we remember that our job is to tell stories, I think we can tell it better with the tools that we have available.
So,
to be very honest, we have no expectations from the robot. Like I said, we're a group of robot noobs. We're just figuring it out over time. We've been playing with the Yahaboom Dogzilla, which is a bot you can get from China. And it's actually based on an open source repository called Champ. So we've been learning Champ, we've been learning the contours of the repository, what all Champ can do. We've only recently got specific joint control working. Till then, you control everything at once. So the reason we're getting the robot is, and I keep going back to Unreal Engine, right? People, how many of you have known me for like 4 or 5 years? With a bunch of people. People have known I've been doing Unreal Engine for several years, right? We never made money of Unreal Engine 4 years ago. Even today, I think maybe there's one client that pays us for some of the VFX part, right? But I know at some point it's going to become popular enough that everyone wants it. And Unreal has taught me so much about everything, right? The minute you go through Unreal Engine, you learn a little bit about physics. You learn a little bit about how diffraction works, like everything. You learn random stuff. Like, I don't remember the exact specifics. I'll be able to figure it out if I see it. But when you create a sky in Unreal Engine, there are so many different constants in the sky on how light bends and how mist works and whatnot. Which in Unreal Engine you can set that, and with ray tracing it's a real light, it's a real photon bouncing, right? So you learn a lot about the world in general. So with robots, I feel like we learn a lot about the world, and we'll be able to predict where it goes in 4 or 5 years only if we have it in front of us and be like, wow, like the Meta Ray-Ban glasses. I think they're awesome. I think they're the future of mobile computing. But you won't feel that till you wear it and you're like, oh shit, this works. This is awesome. Right? The convenience of clicking a picture with one tap, like this is like quick commerce, Zepto, right? Or Blinkit. Before Zepto, Blinkit came out, or when they just started, everybody was complaining, like, why would people need delivery in like 10 minutes? People can wait 10 hours or one day. People are lazy. But now everybody uses quick commerce in India, right? Because it's just the more convenient, easy, one click, oh, it's here in 10 minutes way of doing things. So people you can't tell if something will work or not till you have it in front of you, touch it and feel it and experiment and play around and whatnot. So that's why we're getting the robot. And we have no commercial expectation. We're just trying a bunch of experiments. I'm sure like all of them will fail, but that's been the motto.
Why do you think robots, let's say these humanoid robots, which can be more So till date, most robots have been for industrial uses. Recently, there have been this wave of, if you guys search for Unitary G1, 1X, or even Tesla Optimus, all these companies are building humanoid robots which can potentially work in human environments. It can potentially work inside a home, inside a flat, serving someone tea, cooking a meal for you, right? This is something which has not happened so far. While it has been into the science fiction for a very long time, why do you think this might be, it might happen soon now, while it might not have happened in last many decades?
Yeah, I did a podcast recently with Burnt of 1X Robotics. It's not out yet. It'll be out shortly. Worth watching it because he has some pretty radical views on the future and they have real robots running around their office. So it's there. It's there. Robots are there. Yeah. It's just putting out a consumer robot is risky because you don't want to build the next rabbit and get killed by the public. Your first one's obviously not going to be good enough. It's going to suck. And that's why I think Elon is like such a phenomenon, right? Because he doesn't care about what people think about him. If his version 1.0 is bad, it's fine. He's been cancelled so many times. It's like, it's okay if I put another one. Everyone else is scared.
I think one very important part to do anything meaningful in life is you stop caring about what others think of what you do.
Yeah, and I think that gives him such an advantage because like, I don't care if the first one is slightly bad. I'll ship it anyway, right? So consumer robotics are going to be around in the next maybe 6 months, a year, 2 years. It's going to be around. Like I've seen a real consumer robot doing stuff.
It's a question of when, not if.
Yeah, the question of when they decide to release, and it's going to be much sooner than people think. It's going to cost as much as about a car. Yeah,
like in China, you can get these robots for as much. You get maybe
G1 is $15,000.
Yeah, 3-4 iPhone. It's as much, and it's a full-size humanoid robot who
it's
can be in your home.
4 feet tall.
Yeah.
So you can clean your house, you can reprogram it, and eventually I think the software layer of the robot you'll be able to rewrite.
Yeah.
Right? I actually think there's a business opportunity like Boat.
Yeah.
Boat, originally they went to China, they got some stuff, they put a sticker on it. I call it the sticker business.
Yeah.
But sticker business are not bad because you de-risk yourself building a sticker business.
Right.
Because you're proving to the market first, you're proving to yourself first, is there a consumer paying demand for this?
Yeah.
Because the opposite way to do it is to sit in India and manufacture the headphones first,
Right.
then see if it works. And if you're wrong, sorry, you wasted millions of dollars.
Right.
So I feel like that's the lowest risk way. Go to China, get one of these bots, suit it up in a skin, right? Something nice, furry. Start with toys because there's lower expectation. Sell it to people and then see does it work or not. And if it works, then bring manufacturing home.
Right.
But a lot of people, this is the problem, right? Sometimes we get caught up in either nationalistic pride or whatever, status games or whatever, and we think, nahi, India mein manufacture karna hai. Do it after you have proven consumer demand, right? And if China's already taken the risk of building these things and it isn't that popular there yet, maybe you try it here in India. Like quick commerce didn't work in the US, but it worked in India. Yeah. So I think, actually, I want to bounce this question back to you. What do you think the next 3-4 years are going to look like with robots?
No, I think one of the reasons why a lot of robotics is catching up now is also rooted in the advances in the AI and LLMs that is happening. So basically, until just few years back, most of the computer science was deterministic.
If else.
It was if else, right? That a program is going to give a very specific output and every time it will give the same output. LLMs have been able to get it to a more non-deterministic outputs. That, in human language, the output is non-deterministic. Let's say I just said a sentence. If you ask me to repeat it, I'll say it differently. Even if I'm trying to say the same sentence again, right? So speaking, while we think that speaking is the only such behavior, but unconsciously even walking is a similar behavior. If you ask me to pick that up, I'll pick that up. If you ask me to pick that up again, I'll pick that up, but I'll pick that up differently. Every single movement of my fingers, my body will be different. Because that is what is needed to navigate the real world, right? So I think LLMs are also they are the ones which are able, why these humanoids are able to walk very comfortably in unknown terrains. Because with all that sensor data, it's the sensors on the feet, the LiDARs, the cameras that it have, it is able to produce the non-deterministic steps for them to navigate the real world. So pretty bullish. Both are actually going hand in hand. The advances in the AI space and the advances in the consumer robotics space, they are going hand in hand.
And I think there'll be two options, right? There'll be the Apple world of robotics, and it
and
comes
there's
with
an Android.
yeah, and there's an Android, and I think Android, the number of apps that have been created for Android that have worked. So I was talking to Burnt about what kind of apps these might be, and it's a beautiful conversation. You should listen to it when it's out. We were thinking about what kind of apps these should be, and he was like, "Look, this is going to be something where you feed it either teleoperation data. Teleoperation means you take a controller or you put on a VR headset and you can control its arms and you say, okay, I'm going to pick up this plate, I'm going to pick up this plate, and now it's learned how to pick up plates."
So yeah, you were talking about that just a few days back. She
Right.
had sent me a video where she was saying we can build this.
Yeah, it's called, if you've seen Cyberpunk, the anime, it used to be a game first, right? It's like you can download any skill for $5, $10. You want your robot to now know karate? Great, $5 on the App Store, right? So it's probably going to be skill transfer, or you want laparoscopic surgery, keyhole surgery, fine, $10.
Yeah.
Right? By the best doctor in I don't know, China or something, or the best doctor in the world at a particular thing, now the robot knows how to do what he's doing.
Yeah.
Or, and this is like the interesting thing, right? A doctor can teleoperate into the robot. It doesn't even have to be AI.
Yeah.
You just, it's like Ghost in the Shell, right? Like you're teleporting from where you are with the VR headset into the robot. There's a demo of the 1X robot doing this, right? Where you put on the headset and you're inside the bot and then you're moving your hands around, you're moving your legs around, and you can do whatever. So you can be next to your ailing mom while still at work. You could be there for your son's PTA through a robot body. You can travel to New York, see all the sights through your VR headset, make real decisions, walk around really. There are also implications like this, right? Like there'll be a service like robot fleets, Uber of robots is going to be there, which is not really a tech business, it's more like a booking business. And this is going to be weird because people in India can book robots in the US and transfer themselves there. It doesn't even have to be AI. It doesn't even have to be autonomous in the short term. Because autonomous will probably take a lot more time than we think. But let's say I'm able to zoom myself into that. I just need joint control and feet control, right? Even if it's wheels, I just need an Xbox joystick. Now, all your labor workers can now use this bot to do some of the stuff.
I think a little bit like Avatar, right?
Yeah, like Avatar. Yeah, like Avatar. And technically, AI is really good at this avatar system, right? Even with content, it's technically I'm putting myself in an avatar and it's doing stuff for me.
Yeah.
So here as well, I'm able to teleport into this sitting at the negative implication of this is, well, I can teleport into a robot somewhere else in New York or something, pick up a knife and stab someone. Now who's responsible? Right?
You, of course you.
Yeah, but that's if you can track me. That's if you can track me, right? Like I'm sure somebody will, hack a robot and be like anonymous robot transference or whatever. I'm just saying, like, there was a time where you saying I can possess somebody else's body was witchcraft.
Yeah.
And it didn't exist, right? So it was fake news. But now this astral projection bullshit that people say is a real thing, except you're not projecting into somebody else's body, you're projecting into a bot.
Yeah.
So the implications are crazy. And when autonomous robots come, you don't even need to do that. You can just give it a call and be like, hey, karo.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sure.
I'm Om Mishra from Indore. I have two questions actually. The first question comes in that what would you do if you were 18-year-old right now? The second is a follow-up of that, as I have context that you have written Pajama Prophet, done a lot of freelancing while you were in college. And a lot of people who were around you, like Abhinav, who runs 10K Designer, AVTV, we have seen Martin, Sid Bosson. Martin was a 19-year-old guy when he shifted to Bangalore for editing, and he just used to make films and edit videos. And recently I saw Siddhant sir also starting 100K engineers. So is there any specific framework you guys follow to, evaluate something they have just gone and built some good products. And last time when Martin and Papa Okas were here, they said that Varun really make us work very hard. So I just want to know what it's just being around you and what have actually worked and groomed them so well, and what can we inculcate in us.
I think if you spend enough time around me, you stop believing in existing systems. Like you stop believing in, I need to go to school, I need to do this, I need to do that. You realize ultimately it's about building things and hanging out with smart people, right? When I was your age, I didn't have the structure that, Scalar has today here, right? Where you're surrounded by other, like how many of you have been part of the Avalon community? Okay, there are 4-5 people in the room that have been part of the Avalon community, right? That's 5 years old. That's 4 or 5 years old. So, if you can put really smart people in a room with each other and just do experiments, some of those experiments end up working. 9 out of 10 will fail, yes. But the one that works, people really enjoy it. And I'm not really a company runner. I don't like running companies. So I like running experiments, and then if it works, I'm like, yo, you guys want to run a company around this? This works, go do it. Right? So I think it's more that. And if I was 18, what would I do differently? I think I'd have to go through everything I went through from 18 till today. I had to do all the stupid stuff. I'll tell you what I was doing at 18. And I can see it in a lot of other young kids who apply to us or whatever for jobs, 18, 20, whatever. It's like I was running multiple things. I was distracted. I didn't know whether I want to do a job or run a company. But it's hard to have clarity when you're at that age. Right? So I see it. Some people will apply to us and they'll be like, yeah, I'm freelancing. I'm running a company. I'm also creating content. I'm also doing this. I'm also doing that. It's like there's zero clarity in what they want to do in life. But I don't blame them because I was exactly like that. And I had to go through years of that and years of realizing that doesn't work. And you really need to adopt. You really need to be who you want to be. Like maybe I'm not I realized very later on that maybe I'm not the best like day-to-day CEO. Right? Where I always wanted to be. It seemed like a cool thing to be. But maybe I'm not the best day-to-day CEO. Maybe I'm better as an experimenter and a content creator. That true brutal honesty only comes when you're 30, in your 30s. And there's no way I can convince you to be brutally honest with yourself and just do one thing that you really love and do it really well and give up on all the things that Instagram tells you are cool. And I mean, yeah, that's what I wouldn't do anything else differently when I was 18. I would constantly get distracted by new things.
I think I'll re-articulate just listening to you. You were experimenting a lot. And I think that is what is necessary for every 18-year-old. That build things, try things out, right? Some of them will work, some of them you will only learn by failing. But those who are not even failing are the ones who are at loss. There might be a lot who are just thinking, 1 day, 2 years, 3 years, when I am 22, then I'll build something. I think that's the only thing that you need to avoid.
Yeah, the one day never comes.
That one day is never going to come. Build whatever you want to build, whatever fascinates you. Even if many of you come to me with your ideas, I tell you, it's a bullshit idea, it won't work. But if you are really passionate about it, go ahead and still build it. The problem that I see is not building. That you are only thinking, I want to try this out, I want to try that out, but you are not doing that. Right? So I think one most important thing is keep doing things. Keep trying things out. Some of them will fail. Some of them you might lose interest in after some time, and that all is okay.
You know what I really wish would be a perfect college where you come to college, you sit down, somebody is selected for really smart people around you, and you are sitting in your table with 4 people. The teacher comes in and says, today you build anything you want. Just show it to me at the end of the day. And you're doing it with the 4 people next to you. That's the best. Yeah. 4 years where you don't have the pressure. Otherwise, everyone has this pressure of like, I need to get through this entrance exam. I need to do this. I need to be top of class. Those matter, but they matter much less than people think they do when you're 30. Right? Building things really matters. And a school where people give you the time, energy, focus to build things and also give you the social comfort that kuch nahi bigadega if the thing doesn't work out. I was so scared when I was young if things don't work out. Today, I don't care if something doesn't work out. If my channel dies, I don't care, to be very frank with you guys. Because I'll figure out something else. I'll do the next experiment. That wasn't the most fun thing to do anyway for me, right? So, yeah. We'll take one more question and then we'll call it a day.
Any questions?
Okay, we have a question there.
Sir, you talked about building. I have a question. What after building? Like, if you build something,
selling.
So how do we do that? I mean, sometimes we build a lot of things. Sometimes we think that this could probably be used by a lot of people. But how do we get to that point? Like, how do we get the users, like 10 to 15, the first 10 to 15 users?
I was saying this in the beginning, right? Like, computers are easy. After a while, there's a curve where your competency with the computer is increasing in general. Like, I've now used a computer for like 23 years of my life, 23, 24 years of my life. So I'm used to a computer. And it keeps increasing. And then there's a point where you're able to solve problems on a computer, but you get stuck there. You think that adding that one new feature is going to make everything possible. You think that getting that tracking error under 0.6 pixels that I got yesterday is the end of it. And everything else suddenly becomes scary because you got so much competency here, right? Selling is a different skill. Selling is going out and telling somebody, bro, buy this, try it. What's the harm in trying it? But I've also realized one thing about selling over time, you can only sell to the people who want to buy. Like, you need to go to somebody with a burning problem and tell them, I know you have this burning problem and you're wasting X amount of money on it, I will solve it for you. Actually, what people really want is reliability. They don't want cool tech. Like right now, if you work for me, and you said, hey, I'll come do script writing for you, whatever. I'm not looking at cool, crazy scripts. We don't need that. I'm looking at you being there 5 days a week, being able to not take too many holidays off. Like, I want reliability. It's weird, but everyone who does well in their specific field wants reliability from the people they work with. So if you build software, if you build a drone, let's say, and it's a pretty cool drone and it's got all bells and whistles, great. But now the companies, when you start commercializing, when you start making money out of it, now they'll want it to have a very low error rate, right? So suddenly your game goes from provision of reliability to the person who's buying something from you after you've built it. To seek out the people who have the problems and then to give them the solution is a skill. It's on honesty, it's distribution and sales. And today we make we've demonized content and sales and all that in India, right? Like people don't like hearing sales or sales banda hai, usse nahi baat karenge. But thing is, every dollar that is in your parents' bank account, let's say, has come from them selling themselves for a job or, as an entrepreneur or whatever. So everything has come from sales. Money comes from sales. There are rare exceptions where your technology is so good that's enough. You have the technology, some Forbes will cover you and then you become massive. It's very rare. And distribution is go-to-market is a permanent thing. You'll always keep worrying about it. I would say if you built a successful product, your role actually changes now to, you built a successful product, you hire a team to maintain it. Now, how do I increase the exposure of the product? So some people never get off it, building products. And my opinion is I don't think they should start companies. I think they should work for other people, right? Or partner with somebody else who can do the reliable day-to-day. I'm an experimenter. I hate taking one thing and going very deep. So I'm like, I'll partner with other CEOs other founders to run the day-to-day. Why do I need to do it?
Kind of some of the things that I got from you, what you responded with. One is in India, and maybe I'll ask you all to reflect on that. Culturally, a very big problem of India is that we are very heavily status-driven versus wealth-driven. How many of you know about this concept of status-driven versus wealth-driven? Very few. In India, for example, UPSC preparation is a big thing. Do you know why? Because once you become an IAS officer, you have massive status. You are a big shot. While reality is, all my friends who are IAS, IPS officers, they have a pathetic life. Either they have to be corrupt if they want to make any money. If they are not, they will be in a remote place, not living the kind of life they could have lived if they were in a big city building something, right? But still everyone runs for IAS because it is status, right? On the other hand, until 90s, for example, being an industrialist, being an entrepreneur was vilified. I think one very important thing I would ask you all to reflect on. Are you willing to do something which creates a lot of value, but people might not praise you for that? All of you should be willing to do that. You should celebrate that. One of the reasons often people in India often think, being a salesman is a bad job. Why would I be a salesman? But being a salesman is a fantastic job. And Elon Musk is a salesman. Steve Jobs is a salesman. The reason we do not have Elon Musk and Steve Jobs in India is because we think that sales and marketing is bad. Because it is low status. But it is high wealth. Right? So do things that create value. Do things that create wealth. Not just, I am a big shot. Right? Second is, you were asking about that I have built product. How do I find users for it? Now there are two parts to it. The first part is, are you solving a real problem, or are you just building something because you thought I should build it, right? There's a concept of painkillers versus vitamins, right? How many of you take vitamins every day? No one. 1, 2, 3, maybe 2% people, 1 or 2% people. None of us take vitamins. We all know that if we take vitamins every day, we will probably remain healthier, right? But we don't, because who will have that much discipline to eat that pill every day in the morning, right? How many of you, if you have a serious headache one day, you will eat the Disprin or whatever painkiller you want to eat? Everyone, right? Of course, if you are having a massive headache, you will eat the painkiller, right? The same thing also applies to the products that you are building. Whatever you are building, is that a painkiller or is that a vitamin? If you are building a vitamin, people will not use it, period. I'll give you examples of painkiller products versus vitamins, right? If PhonePe, let's say. PhonePe is a painkiller because if you go to a shop, you have a pain, how do I pay? Now your options are either you install PhonePe and pay using that or any other payment apps, UPI apps, or you go to the ATM, draw the cash and then give. It is solving a massive pain. I have to pay right now, that is why this app works, right? On the other hand, let me take some of them, because vitamin apps do not exist. The fact is there is no successful vitamin app. Uber is a popular app because you have to go somewhere. There's a pain. How do I go? If I book a cab, I can sit in it and I can go. Solving a pain. That's why it exists. That's why it is popular. I will pick some idea that some of you had shared with me and I told that it's a vitamin, it's not a painkiller, so it will not work. Let's say someone says that, I'll take two examples from this hall itself, one of painkiller, one of vitamin, right? I will build an application which will help people read books. Great, everyone wants, all of you want to read a book, but is it a pain if when I get up in the morning, I have to read a book, otherwise I'll fail? No. So an app which is helping maybe people, read a book most likely will not become massively popular. Another vitamin product, let's say there are a bunch of friends, I will make an app which helps them get together. It's a vitamin. No one has this pain that I have to meet my friends, so give me an app which can make me do that. It's a vitamin. These are also called as tar pit ideas. I had shared that YC video in the group. All of you should watch that. These are tar pit ideas. Tar pit as in that everyone has thought about it. Thousands of people have built it.
Building social media.
Building social media. You will say, I will also build a Facebook.
By the way, I made this mistake, so.
Right? So build something which is painkiller. Let me take an example of a painkiller app. Some of you had shown me prototypes of things you are building that. There's an exam coming up. In 2 days, in 4 days, I have to do whole revision, study everything for my exam, score well in the exam. Is it a pain? It is a massive pain, right? Everyone is stressed, I have to pass, I have to get good scores. Now let's say if someone offers a solution that, here are all the lecture recordings, feed that into that. It will prepare very crisp revision notes, give you a bunch of quizzes on that, solve that in 2 hours, you will be prepared for the exam. How many of you will pay for that a day before the exam? Almost everyone. Because it is a painkiller, right? So you face the issue of, people not using it, either because you are building a vitamin. Ask yourself, whatever you are building, is that a vitamin or is that a painkiller? Try to build painkillers. And there are enough pain around, right? Someone was asking me, are there any painful problems even remaining because so many things have been built already?
You have to go to the less sexier, painful problems. Real estate mein kuch pain tha.
Boring problems. Boring problems is what solves the pain.
How do you solve a manhole ka something?
I'll give you 2 examples of that from 2 of my friends. So there is an app called Pashu Mandi and there's another Animal. What they do is simple. When you go to the villages, people want to sell their cattle or buy cattle, right? Now in a village, how do you sell it? Let's say I have run out of money, I want to sell my cow. Now probably my neighbor will buy it for dirt cheap because I cannot roam around all 8 villages around my village to sell my cow. He is giving the max for that, right? This friend of mine, she just built an Android app on which people can put their animals they want to sell, or you can browse what are the animals on sale and you can buy it. Very boring, right? But this is already a $1 billion company, right? Second thing, the hidden pains. back in 2010, so Bhavesh, who is Ola's founder, back in 2010, we were catching up, and he was telling me about that, Abhimanyu, in New York, there's this app called Uber. It was not in India at that time. We are that old. So he was telling me this app exists in Uber. You must have used it. It's so fancy. It can be built in India. And back then I was saying, yeah, it's not even a pain. I will just go out, stop an auto, sit and go. And plus in India, no one has a smartphone. You are telling me these auto drivers will have an iPhone and they will use it. They will not even be able to use it. It's not going to work. I was wrong. There was a pain which was invisible. Because we often get so accustomed to existing pains that we do not realize there is a pain to be solved. Right? For example, exam prep thing I was talking about. Some might accept that, preparing for exam is supposed to be so complex. But you can ask, it's a pain. It can be solved. Preparing for exams could be much simpler. It can be much easier. Right? So you have to discover pains and you have to solve pains. If you build vitamins, people will not use it. And third, distribution. Even if you have a painkiller, but if there is no way for you to tell the world about it, like still some people might use it, and that is where I think building distribution is very powerful. And all of you should invest time in that. Today's world, fortunately, you have YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, whatever. Often it is seen as low status thing.
To create content.
This is cringe. He's putting it out there. He's cringing. Forget about that. If 10,000, 100,000 people around the world know you, your probability to be very, very successful in life substantially increases. Someone who is telling you that whatever you are putting on internet is cringe, they are the losers. You are not. So I think, this is anything if you would like.
Yeah, I 100% agree with all of it. And I think, the main thing is just don't get stuck in just the technology. Remember, there's two parts to it. There's the technology and the selling. And you have to get good at both.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Should we wrap up?
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. I hope I didn't bore you guys.